I'm not worried about it.
Back to you too.
They're both over it.
That'd be fun.
Guess we'll see what I can
Do I
do.
look short? Do I look like I'm too short? I
pretty
think it's
short.
broken. That's
Or you
probably
could
why
keep
they're
sinking down.
Yeah. That's why they did that.
You want a different?
No, I'll be fine. I'll manage.
There you go.
Oh,
Yes, yes. We have a quorum, yeah,
Yes.
all right.
Must be summer.
No,
nobody's here.
We have somebody in the audience, be careful.
You know what?
Okay. I want to make sure I'm on the right agenda here. There's not much on here, is there?
A bit.
It's like I read earlier. Okay,
Normal.
oh, here we
There he
go.
is.
That's why he's on time. Look at that, within the minute.
Yeah,
Okay, let's call it June 6th, 2024 LAFCo Agency Formation Commission meeting to order. Call a roll, please. We're not gonna just
Commissioner
like
Boland.
salute. Let's salute our flag. It's all in the way
Absolutely.
here.
Especially on D-Day, right? Yep.
Ready? Salute. Pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And with that suggestion by Supervisor Kimmelshoe, let's have a moment of silence and remembrance of the veterans that gave all for us, especially those on D-Day. Please join me. Amen. Thank you. That was appropriate. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Boland,
Still here.
Commissioner Johnson,
Here.
Commissioner Kimmelshoe,
Here.
Chair Connolly,
Here.
Commissioner McGreehan, Commissioner Duncan, Commissioner Betts, alternate Commissioner Don Rust,
Here.
alternate Commissioner Bradley, alternate Commissioner Ritter, alternate Commissioner Shepherd. Thank you.
Okay, first on the agenda is nominations.
Oh, sorry.
$5.
I'm awake now.
Now it'll wake you up.
I missed that one.
Okay, first up is election of LAFCO chair and vice chair. Is there,
I move, Bill Connolly, be chair.
Second.
any other nominations? We'll close that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. I have a speech, but we'll skip it. All right, here we go.
Thank you.
I think it's appropriate because I'm still on state LAFCO.
You only got what, about 39 more years to catch up with,
Carl.
Lebrun's, right? Okay.
Well, I have to invent that anti-aging drug. Okay, so now we need a vice chair. Any volunteers? Somebody nominating.
Okay, I nominate as our vice chair.
And I'll second it.
I love it. Any other nominations? We'll close the nominations. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I love it. Okay, on the consent agenda, would anyone up here like to pull something from the consent agenda? Is there any electronic correspondence on the agenda today? Thank you. All right. Public comment on the consent agenda? I'll entertain a motion.
Whether we approve. Presented by staff.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Perfect. Unanimous. Notice public hearings. Amendment to current staff change-out rates, including continuation of the application of the annual cost escalator based upon the employment cost index.
Well, thank you for that. This is an annual increase we do every June, and it's based on the Western States Index, as you just said. And for this year, it's a 5% increase, which takes our current rate from 186 to 195 an hour as our charge out rate. We just do this every year as that inflation rate continues to change. You're not obligated to increase it, but that is what your policies direct.
Okay, any questions or comments by the board? Public comment? Entertain a motion.
Move to approve?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passed unanimously. 3.2, Larkin Road annexation number 1, Clay Pits SVRA.
Okay, thank you, Chair. This is a proposal to annex 2 parcels into the Thermalito Water and Sewer District. The 2 parcels are just 2 of the 220-acre parcels that make up the Clay Pits State Vehicle Recreation Area. It's located west of the city of Oroville and just south of the Oroville Municipal Airport. Annexing the 2 parcels into the Thermalito Water and Sewer District would allow the district to provide sewer and domestic water to the site, supporting implementation of the adopted 2012 Clay Pits SVRA General Plan. This plan envisions the construction of administrative offices, a maintenance yard, a visitor support facilities to be constructed at the site. So obviously, the water and sewer would allow for the construction of bathroom facilities where water is provided. The parcels are owned by the California Department of Park and Recreation, and they did apply for this on behalf of the Thermalito Water and Sewer District, who adopted a initiating resolution earlier this year. So today I'm asking that you would adopt resolution 07-2324, making determinations, approving the annexation, waiving protest provisions, and finding that no subsequent environmental review is necessary pursuant to SEQA guidelines section 15282K and 15162. I'm happy to ask any question or answer any questions you might have.
Questions or comments? Only taken 13 years.
Yes, two tries in 13
Any
years.
public
yeah.
comment on this matter?
Mm.
Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Wishes of the board.
I move approval.
And I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimously. On to the regular agenda, 4.1, nothing removed. 4.2, consideration selection of both a regular and an alternate public member.
Thank you. That's me again. As you see in your staff report that public members, Mr. Betts and Don Rust are both have their terms expiring, and we didn't have to fill those for 4-year terms. They both have indicated they would like to return, and we did publish this in the newspaper, and that resulted in one application that came in. This gentleman is in the audience today, and you can hear from him in a moment. So what you're asked to do is appoint a public member, regular member, and a public member alternate this morning. And I can answer any questions, but you're familiar with 2 of the applicants, and I'll let you go.
Well, would you like to come up and tell us about yourself?
Sure.
Pretty bad. I already made the guy in the vice chair.
Well, good morning. Appreciate the opportunity. Just wanted to just explain why I applied. I've been I don't know if you read my application. I know it was in the agenda packet, but my first exposure to LAFCo was when I was a student at Butte College. I was taking a state and local government class. First time I had ever heard of LAFCo. Probably a lot of people I think probably have never heard of LAFCo, right? I wrote a paper on it. It just kind of was one of those things that piqued my interest at the time. That class helped me choose my major at Chico State, which I ended up pursuing public administration. I've had the opportunity. I just moved back to Butte County a little less than 2 years ago. Had the opportunity when I lived in the city of Tracy to serve on the Planning Commission. I'd also serve on the Parks and Recreation and Transportation Commission. Just enjoy, being able to serve in those types of appointed roles and, be a voice for, other members of the public and, other residents and, happy to answer any questions. I mean, I understand I'm the only other applicant and I'm sure the two gentlemen that already have the roles are doing a fine job and, but figured I'd throw my hat in the ring and appreciate your time.
What district do you live in?
I believe it's District 2.
So you live in Chico?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I live right, guess best way to describe it would be the Belmere area,
Oh, sure.
out just on the outskirts, right on the city limits there.
All I can say is that no matter how this turns out, there's some place for you because we can't get enough people to show an interest in
Yeah.
government.
But I think it's one of those things that there's folks that want to have an opportunity to serve, and there's other folks that use their voice in different ways. When I was a member of the Planning Commission in Tracy, one of the things is we had a lot of development going on in that town, a lot of sprawl, a lot of folks moving from the Bay Area out there. And, you'd be out to dinner, or you'd be out at the dog park or whatever, and you'd hear folks talking about it. And it's like, well, do you go to the council meetings? Do you go to planning commission? No, we just rant and rave wherever. Maybe it's on Facebook, maybe it's occasional letter to the editor. And it's always encourage people. I'm like, hey, planning commission meets Tuesday nights, first and third Tuesday, come to a meeting. Every once in a while you get somebody to show up because of that. So always encourage public participation, whatever it was. I mean, that's the heart of how y'all know what's going on out in the county and out in your district. So
yeah, people show up when it costs them money or it changes their view. One of the two
Yeah.
things.
that's about right.
Any questions?
How do you say your last name?
Krog.
Crow. Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Thank you.
Well, Mr. Crow, I'll tell you what, that Belmere area is going to be a very interesting area in the upcoming years and something that the city of Chico wants to annex. So like Chair Connolly said, whether we appoint you or not, I would ask that you be involved in those things that are going on in that
Oh, you
area.
bet.
And
Yeah,
I
no.
will work with you and with the supervisor in that area, Peter Durfee, to get you involved. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, that's definitely an area that's ripe for changes.
Yes,
There's
it
already some
definitely-
that are coming ahead.
It'll
So
be a hot button,
yeah,
so.
for sure.
Any other questions on you?
Are
Thank
you,
you.
are you employed remotely?
Yeah, mostly. Yeah, I do work from home. I did have that opportunity to kind of move back here and work from home. So I actually just got back late last night from Pleasanton I was down there doing some contract negotiations for my company. So yeah, I moved back, my wife ended up getting a job with the Machupta tribe. Being one of their directors of community service. So we've wanted to move back to Chico. It was one of those things where we had to have a job, right? And she was the impetus for that. And then I went to my company and they said, well, we want to keep you. We'll find something for you. So was lucky to be back up here. Right. So
Glad you're here.
yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. It's up to us. All right.
Maybe you could do these one at a time. Your first one could be a nomination for the regular member.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would go ahead and move Stephen Betts as our regular member, as he has been the last since Carl Evans passed. And so I would put his name into nomination.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a nomination. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Nominations closed. I know my rules.
You do. I was impressed.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, next up.
Well, I'll speak up again, I guess. I want to thank Mr. Crow for placing his name into nomination, but I think Don has been here at every one of our meetings, whether he sits in the chairs or not. And so Don Rust. And so I would move Don into the alternate position.
Second.
Is there any other nominations? Is there any other nominations? there any other nominations? Nominations closed. Mr. Crow, please stay engaged.
Yes, thank
We
you.
need you.
We will. Thank you.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Thank you very much. Moving on, 4.3, letter agreement between LAFCo, cities of Biggs and Gridley, I should say. They're not the same yet. And irrigation and drainage. district. Yet. I just want to see the cotton bales and the smoke poles.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay, so this letter agreement, we've been discussing this for a little over a year now. I've been giving you updates on the progress of the conversations that I've been involved with between the city of Gridley and the drainage and reclamation service providers out on the west side of the county. Mainly my role was to facilitate conversations between all the parties on how best to handle development projects that come into the city of Gridley where they build adjacent to district facilities, specifically canals, and requiring encasement of those canals. So through those conversations, all parties agreed that a letter agreement would be the best course of action in order to commit all the parties to sort of the same, just to be on the same page as far as development goes. So the spirit of the letter agreement is to acknowledge that as the cities of Gridley and Biggs are to grow, that they would do that in partnership with these ag providing service districts that surround them, so that ag continues to remain a primary focus of those communities. So this agreement commits each party to actively participating in the development process. It brings everybody to the table to have those conversations. It establishes known timelines and provides known expectations among the parties. It's not intended to solve all the disagreements between the parties. It doesn't require anybody to do anything outside of what's already legally required through the planning process. But it does, in my opinion, it's a more formal type of handshake between the cities and the districts as these development projects move forward. So since the letter was completed, it's been distributed to the districts. We have a formal sign-in, as in the boards or councils have agreed and signed the letter from the city of Biggs, the Biggs West Gridley Water District, and the Butte Water District. And then we've received interest from Reclamation District 2056. We're still waiting on the letter to be signed by Reclamation District 833. And then the city of Gridley will consider it at a future meeting. I've offered to attend that meeting in order to educate their council on what this letter means to them. So I'm just waiting for notification from Gridley of when it'll be on their agenda. But as far as this commission is concerned today, I'm asking that you would have considered the proposed letter agreement and authorize for me to enter into the agreement on behalf of LAFCo. So if you have any questions, I can answer those. Otherwise, I'll just continue to follow up with the cities and the districts to get everyone on the same page.
Have the legal counsels of all these entities reviewed this? letter
Yes, most of
agreement?
the districts have all the same legal counsel, so they've all read and didn't have any issues. The city of Biggs, their legal counsel read, didn't have any issues. Originally, the city of Gridley's legal counsel did not have any issues, but I think in the last couple of weeks, they've maybe found something they might be concerned about. And so I'll just follow up with them and continue to educate them on
That
the
includes our
intent of
legal
the letter.
counsel as well. The
What's that?
LAFCO's legal counsel
Yeah.
also looked at this, okay.
Yep.
In the event that this is executed with all the affected agencies, who's going to monitor this?
I honestly, it's going to be everybody. I mean, I'm happy to continue to stay involved. That's how I got, the district reached out to me in the first place to facilitate those conversations. But like I said, the intent of the letter agreement is not to obligate them to anything beyond what is already required for CEQA noticing. When development projects come in, there's certain steps that a planner has to take in order to deliver a project for comment to affected agencies. And those were just things that were not happening at the city of Gridley. So it doesn't expect from them anything beyond what is already a common planning practice. And so I think the letter agreement is more just an acknowledgement to adhere to those practices. And if we find that any of the parties are, not following the rules, then it would be more of, okay, let's sit down and have a conversation about what we can do to fix the process.
Is it LAFCo's job to monitor those things?
Not necessarily, no, but for
Get
these
involved
smaller
if there's an
districts
issue.
where it's just a one-man show, they're not planners. They don't know the planning process. And so it's an opportunity for us to educate them on just what their role can be, especially, things are happening out in Gridley. They're growing a lot and they're seeing, more development than they have in the past few years. And so the districts, I think, were kind of found themselves in a place where they just didn't know how or where to express their concerns.
Okay.
So this really is not when you say increased work for us, it's really not increased work. In fact, I would argue that in the long run, it reduces our work. What we end up doing is we get aware of those projects from the city of Gridley, and we have commented in the past. And there has been confusion on their part as to which way to go forward. This letter just surely sets an expectation for everybody. So moving forward, if Shannon gets or I get a review from Gridley, now we know that everybody else has seen this and we can forward and we have the knowledge that really understood the rules before we started. So it's actually, hopefully, once they sign it, if they sign it, will make it easier for us in the long run because we won't have to hold as many hands because it'll be in writing. And when we say, look at that agreement, that's the very things we're looking for. That makes it easier for us, actually.
I'm encouraged by this, but I'm just going to query this one thing with the staff. Item 3.4 in the letter of agreement talks about all the parties meeting on a quarterly basis to discuss potential projects and refinements in the review process. I think that's good, but I also think it, as a courtesy to our staff, LAFCo staff, you should get notification of these quarterly meetings.
Sure.
And that can be an indirect way of monitoring to see if they're really off and running and following the letter of intent.
Yeah.
To interact. That's just a suggestion I have. I don't know if we would require that of you or not, but that's up to the commission again.
I know the parties would be they would be open to that. They'd be interested in, I would imagine that even if it's not, it's not in the agreement, but they will definitely be notifying me of any of those conversations that they have.
I've got one question, one comment. First of all, one question. Is there any reason that Butte County has not been included in this agreement?
Just because it involves development that's happening within the city of Gridley.
Okay.
And so the issue comes down to who holds the land use authority. And so as these projects are developed in the city of Gridley
And big.
and Biggs, the county doesn't necessarily have a role to play. They don't own any of the districts all own these canals, these facilities, and Gridley is the primary. I mentioned, should we invite the county in on the agreement, but I think everyone just sort of agreed that it really comes down to a real, when I say local, I mean like focused local issue between these entities.
Okay. And then secondly, my comment is thank you for doing this. I have sympathy with the city of Gridley, not so much the city of Biggs because there's not as many canals, but if the city of Gridley is inundated with more canals, either drainage districts or water providers, it's very difficult to develop in those areas. And to encase these canals or enclose them, it's going to be mostly on the back of the developers. And so it just costs developers more money to do that. But I believe it does need to be done for safety reasons.
And one thing,
it's difficult, unfortunately.
Yeah, and pretty much going back since the beginning of time, everyone has acknowledged that Gridley is an agricultural community. So if Gridley is to grow, it needs to be in conjunction with these ag supporting services. And that's not to say they shouldn't grow. None of the districts think we have to stop growth, no more housing, no more building in Gridley. It's just that it needs to be done in a way that's unique to Gridley and Biggs that the city of Chico or the city of Oroville don't necessarily have to think about. And so this is a way to acknowledge the uniqueness of Gridley as it grows.
Yeah, and I think that since the city of Chico has made it abundantly clear that they're not interested in much more growth. The other areas, the other incorporated cities, Orville, Paradise, Gridley, Biggs.
Yeah.
I think we need to make it as easy as we can to develop in those areas. And I don't know that this makes it easier, but at least there's an agreement out there that if you do develop, this is what needs to happen.
Yes, there's a known process.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
But as a LAFCo board, I think we should do everything we can for these 4 other jurisdictions to grow and benefit from that growth.
Yeah.
Because Chico, obviously, like I said, does not want that. Council member?
Well, I want to compliment
Are you
staff.
gonna abstain from this or what?
No,
No.
I mean,
I should have had turned mine on.
the,
Yours is on.
I don't know where I should start, so I'm just gonna be limited on what I'm gonna say, but, we'll see what happens in Gridley. Looking at the last 3 years, almost 4 years, there hasn't been any private developing going on in Gridley. Before that, there was. So I'm not sure, I know where the issues we're at. I think we all do. And I know the reason we're here today and at this point. So hopefully moving forward, we'll come up with an idea. Maybe it's a language issue. I am not privy to why Ridley's kind of reviewed this and then have changed their mind. So we'll see. Hopefully we'll figure out what's going on there. But yeah, you're right. For safety issues, and Gridley is pretty unique. We have a lot of canals and it is an agriculture area. If we want growth and we're going to be up against that, is safety first, as far as encasement. I mean, it makes logical sense to do that. I think it's maybe how we do it and who controls that, I think is where it's going to come down to. All I know at this point. Wearing both hats, it's
Mhm.
so.
Any other questions or comments? Public comment on this matter? Public comment, wish of the board.
I would move approval letter and authorize.
It says DEO Shannon Costa.
I see it, Shannon.
It could go either way. There's been some mix from each of the other parties. This depends on who is authorized to sign on their party. So it's not anything consistent.
I have a motion. Do I need a second?
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion?
In the event that we pass this direction, if the commission concurs, I'd request that staff notify us if and when Gridley enters into the letter of agreement or whatever.
Yeah. You got 3 or 4 head nods. We're good with that.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. 4.4, consideration of investment policy.
This is hopefully a wrap up of conversations we've been having at the last couple meetings where we introduced the idea of potentially investing a portion of the agency's funds outside of the county treasury for the purpose of realizing a higher rate of return on interest. So you did review the investment policy at last month's meeting. So today I'm hoping for formal adoption of the policy, which would allow me to move forward with an investment. Since the publishing of this report, I have received a formal proposal from Tri-Counties Bank for a CD at 4.5% for, I believe it's a 6-month period. That's a pretty standard rate. That's in pretty much all institutions right now. And so adopting the policy today would allow staff to move forward and find the best rate and invest the reserve funds that we have right now into a CD.
How are they insuring those funds?
Anything under $250,000 is FDIC insured.
Right.
Anything above that, the bank would waive FDIC insurance and they collateralize it themselves. They invest it differently. They invest it more conservatively so that they can collateralize it. I don't anticipate us investing beyond the FDIC insurance. I think we're going to start a little more conservatively, start with a smaller number, see how things go and kind of enter into this slowly. And then as we move forward, they did send me lots of documentation on waiving the FDIC, and I've got lots of education on how that works. But I do think that at this time, we're going to start slowly and safely.
Yeah, there's a way of doing that in several different venues that are under 250.
Yes.
Get that insurance, so.
Yeah, but as of right now, it's 250,000 FDIC insured and no issues there.
And you guys feel comfortable managing this?
There's not gonna be a lot to manage once it's
Once it's locked up.
invested. Yeah, we've talked about how often we'll come back and report, and I'm happy to do that. I don't find that to be overly burdening, but having the policy in place allows us to at least explore this option
Right.
and to see how things go.
It's easy as an individual. It's just tougher as an agency, as you know.
Yes.
You've got an education, you learned, and it's amazing what you got to go through, so.
Well, just a simple reminder, this came to you from our
Yes.
budget committee.
Yes.
To the commission as a whole and I think our prior discussion, we concurred that other agencies have been doing this.
Mhm.
So it's just, we feel the investment policy is a wise thing to establish for LAFCo.
It is.
Yeah.
Just a lot of rules.
Any other questions or comments? Public comment on this matter? Close public comment, wishes of the board.
Move approval.
Second,
You didn't call Conley for District 1, 5%. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed?
you're on a roll today.
Salary plan amendment, 4.5.
That's back to me. This item in front of you today is to add a job salary plan classification and a salary plan amendment. So what you're seeing is an attachment is your draft copy of what the office manager position would be. And in the action requested, there's a table that reflects the salary plan. Background on this is we have going through some staffing shuffling over the last few years and looking at our workload and such. I have been looking at a transitional plan to see how we move forward with staffing. And as I shared with the commission on multiple occasions that we intend to look at combining both the clerk and the current human resources finance portion of our functions under one person, and that one person will be Ms. Bradford, who has done a remarkable job of doing both things. And we are grateful for her ability to do that. But this is really a two-part, one to acknowledge her good service and make sure we keep her on board for years to come. Because as you all know from your own agencies, hiring is extraordinarily difficult at this point. And if you can keep good people, we try to do it. So the second part of this obviously is also, it makes sense in our office to combine these two positions, thus freeing up some opportunity if we should need to bring on an analyst at a later date if things were to change. We have more flexibility within the budget to do so. So this is ultimately going to be a short-term cost savings for us in that we're combining two positions into one. So I'm asking you today if you would approve the salary plan for an office manager position, and with the full intention of that position then being flown open internally for our current commission clerk. Any questions for me?
I have a question for you. Included along with the resolution and the staff report, a draft of the job description for office manager. You're not asking us to act on that as a commissioner on,
I'm
you're
sorry.
not asking the commission to act on the office
No,
manager
no,
position.
I'm more happy to
This-
take any comments or observations you have. You're not necessary for you to approve this description. Under our policies, basically the commission has the authority to do that. You've divested that authority to your executive officer to manage your personnel.
Right,
So
right.
what I'm really looking for is just the creation of the salary plan, which is in your purview to do so.
For what it's worth, I want to compliment you and the staff for the job description,
Oh.
particularly on the very back page and in bold discussion about the job specification should not be construed to imply that these requirements are the exclusive standards of the position. I like that. Given the history of this LAFCo in particular.
Well, and the job market has changed demonstrably. There are states who are actually dropping the requirement for even requiring college degrees, for instance, because it's showing that it's not necessarily demonstrably connected to the job performance. So having said that, we want as much flexibility to get the right person. And fortunately for us, we feel like we already have the right person sitting right there. So we appreciate that.
Questions or comments by the board? Public comment? Close public comment, wishes of the board.
Move approval.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Now I can take public comment on items not on the agenda. We cannot take action on it because it was not agendized. You can get up and talk about anything you want. It's nice to have public here.
Yeah.
We can't have a wave or anything, but we have public, right? All right, reports and communication, executive officers report.
I'll try to go through this quickly. The first item is simply acknowledgement that our current lease at our 1453 Downer Street location expires in May of 26. So we have approximately a year and a half to work on that. That can be a time-consuming thing depending on what we do, but we will bring this back to you in a more formal capacity. But what I wanted you to know is we're going to not only talk with our current landlord, we'd also are going to examine what other options exist for us that might be a better fit for our office. And I'm not suggesting anything beyond that. It's just, it is ultimately the commission's decision to decide where your offices are. But at this point, we want to bring to you an analysis of what that looks like and what are the options available to us if we don't stay in our current facility. So I'm not asking anything today, just to give you a heads up that this is on the horizon and we're going to start that process of evaluating the location. So if you have any questions for me on that one, I'm happy to answer them. The next two items, I'm going to let Shannon take on because they reflect her business. So.
These are just two examples of how LAFCo staff is engaging in our community. So the first one is that I've been invited to attend and join an organization called the California Women in Agriculture, the North Valley chapter. I attended a social of theirs a few weeks ago. It's mixed of all sorts of women involved in the ag community in all different types of ways. I think they have a lot to talk about. It's they meet at a state level as well, and so I'm excited and interested in being part of that group. And then, of course, on a quarterly basis, I'm invited to attend a group called the Butte Utility Council. This is a group hosted by the City of Chico engineering staff, and its goal is to provide a platform for local agencies and utilities to collaborate and coordinate on their projects. So mostly it's utility providers who it puts everybody on the same page. If PG&E is doing a big project and they're in an area where Cal Water may need to do a project, then they can all be made aware of what's going on and coordinate on those. And so, of course, I attend those to just be aware of what's going on, and then to also offer my any sort of outside viewpoint on any of those projects. So those are just a couple examples of things we're doing outside of just regular day-to-day office work.
Thank you.
Is Rose Tryon a part of the women's?
I'm sorry?
agriculture? Is Rose Tryon a part of the?
Yeah, the social that we had a few weeks ago had limited attendance, so I did not get to meet many people. So I'm excited for the summer's kind of slow down for them. So come sort of end of summer, I'll be able to be introduced to more of the bigger group. I know Colleen Cecil is, of course, involved heavily, and so that's
Okay.
good.
Good.
Just add on to that, this commission has always, for all the years that I've been doing this, has been very encouraging of me to participate in as many things as I could, because that gives us so much more information and intel on the ground, if you will. And so this coming year, it is my intention that Shannon attend as many of these types of things as she can to start to build that network. And I also would request to the commissioners, if any of you think of anything in particular that within your cities or districts or anything that comes up that you believe would help us as LAFCo staff, let us know where those things are in those meetings, and we'll reach out and try to, stick our nose in the door if we can. But it's this kind of stuff where we learn things that frankly, sometimes we don't learn through other channels. And so this is hugely beneficial. So I hope you continue to encourage not just me, but Shannon in the future to attend as many of these things as she can. Next up, oh, sorry.
I was gonna ask any more questions? Nope.
The next item on here real quickly is the draft environmental impact report for the Tuscan Ridge PUD. I'm currently reviewing that. I've shared it with Mr. Bolin and Mr. McGrehan and with city staff as well, and encouraging them to respond. I've not completed my review. We have until, I believe, June 20th to get that in. So if anybody has any particular comments or concerns they want to share with me, please call me. Let me know what those are. I think we're going to be on board. I've already provided you our comments on the notice of preparation when this came about. Frankly, the biggest issue for us is there's two, frankly, and one is the relationship that they wish to have with PID, which I don't think is fully vetted in the document at this point. And then the other one, it's just more of a policy related issue, is just the location of it in between Chico and Paradise, and what that means to folks in terms of growth. And I'm not opining on that at all, just that those are things that we will call out. And then, of course, those comments will come for us back to the county. The county will incorporate those comments into their review, and ultimately it'll end up in front of the Board of Supervisors. I will also share those comments, obviously, with the commission as well. So as soon as they're prepared, I won't wait for a meeting. I will circulate those to you immediately. The county service area requirements, I'm not really going to belabor that at all. It's a good progress is being made. The county staff has really appreciated the need to look at these CSAs. They have reached out almost regularly to Shannon and I on this, so we'll continue to engage with them. But this is a positive direction. I'm not sure where it's going to end up, but it's going in a better place. Tuscan Water District, there's really nothing new to add. I just want to let you know they're continually moving on. They consult with me regularly to see if they're in compliance with their conditions and so forth. And of course, their big item out there at the end of the day, which is their February need to have a revenue measure. And they're working on that feverishly to get that together. LAFCo, I'm going to move on to that item. So right now we have a board of directors has 2 nominations open for the northern region, and there's a map attached to your report, which just gives you an idea where we sit. There's in the 4 regions, southern, central. So we have 18 counties in the north, and that's who Mr. Connolly represents as a supervisor member. But right now, going into the next year, we have an opening for both a city member and a public member. So this is an open invitation to any of you, well, and not any of you, the city members or the public members who want to participate at the LAFCo level. The commission can endorse that and we can nominate you. So if there's interest, it's available. Let me know what you want to do or if anybody's interested. Now will be a good time to show me your interest, and we can talk more before August. But seeing none, we'll move on. We also have there's several legislative proposals that are being put together for the 2025 year. As Mr. Connolly knows, we keep churning kind of the same material.
Mr. Betts isn't here. Maybe he just volunteered.
That says our public member. Yeah, I'll let him
All in
know.
favor?
I'll see if there's interest, Mr. Connolly. So this is really an opportunity now that we start putting together ideas for what legislative changes we might want in the coming year. It starts that soon. So nothing you have to act on today. Just if something strikes you as of interest, or you want to talk to me about any particular policy or state law related to LAFCo that you think has a need to be addressed, sit down with me and talk to me about it, and we can see if we can come up with a proposal to address it. Otherwise, Mr. Connolly, myself, Mr. Brown are all on the Ledge Committee. I will probably drag Shannon onto it here soon enough, if I can. And so we are well represented on that committee, and our 2 cents is heard. Wouldn't you agree, Mr. Connolly?
I think that, I'm a little bit, I personally am a little disappointed in state LAFCO that they don't want to, take on major issues that could impact all LAFCOs because they see it as controversial, or you can't get 100% of the counties in line. So I'm a little disconnected right now, but it is what it is. I mean, when I was chair, we certainly pushed the envelope between the 3 of us. We got things done, and I'm not chair, I'm the outgoing chair, so it's different. And the meetings are longer, but yeah, it still serves a purpose.
Well, nonetheless, I'm gonna be repetitive here, but I still think if Mr. Conley and yourself and our legal counsel is willing to address this, that you send a direction to Cal LAFCO to consider a bill the next legislative session to amend the law in such a way to allow special district representation on all LAFCOs throughout California
I mean,
consistently, despite if there is special districts in those individual counties.
when you say allow, you mean mandate that they be on there.
Mandated, absolutely.
Okay, because right now
It's
they
the
all are
proper
allowed.
representation that should be in place and hasn't been from the very start.
Yeah, that's wise, because we have disagreements that aren't necessary when actually LAFCO is created for the benefit of special districts, not to
That's right.
oppose them, and to protect the public from special districts when they are rogue, but or need to be consolidated. So yeah, we can bring it up.
And I think
There's no harm in asking.
I think CSDA could be a co-player in this too. CSDA, if nobody knows what that is, it's California Special Districts Association, but it just, I know I'm beating my head against the door.
No,
but
not
just,
necessarily. I
just-
like it. Let's try
I
it.
just think it's long overdue. And, the original intent of LAFCO was to have proper representation across the board, literally, so.
So on that note, just CSDA has always been favorable to this perspective. This really just comes down to once districts are established on the commission, then all districts are subject to our budget appropriations, just like our district representatives pay. And frankly, a lot of them are in these rural areas where they just don't frankly understand the role of LAFCO, and so they don't see the value. And in those particular jurisdictions, there's nobody there to educate them or to promote or encourage this. Maybe that's an outreach thing we need to do as a Cal LAFCO organization, but it's an excellent point. But it comes down to this money issue all the time. But I can frankly say I can't imagine doing this without special districts on the commission. It's such a favorable thing for any county to have as many members participating as possible. So with Bill's assistance, I will draft something up, and I might end up dragging you in, Mr. McGreehan, if that's okay.
Sure.
Because I know you have other roles, other hats you wear within special districts as well. With respect to legislation, the indemnification authorization, which is SB 1209, it's moving forward. We had a significant hiccup with the Building Industry Association over some specific language. I actually had an emergency call on Monday to talk about that, and I think we resolved it, simplified it. As Mr. Connolly pointed out, it's very frustrating to work through these bills when it comes down to you're just arguing over 3 or 4 words. But the reality is we lose sight of what can be had if we just move forward. We don't need the perfect, we need the good, and we don't want to throw that out. And too often we try to get the perfect piece of legislation, and anybody knows that just almost never happens. So 1209 indemnification is huge, and we hope that'll go through. And right now we think we have the CBIA, California Building Industry Association on board now with the revised language. The financial analysis clarification is moving forward. That's not controversial in any way. It's part of essentially the omnibus bill that allows that to be approved. There's one I didn't have on my list, but I literally just had yesterday a Zoom call, kind of an emergency Zoom call with legislative staff in Sacramento, along with our executive director, about a bill which is AB 2661, and I think you'll find it interesting in 2 ways. So this is a bill that is going through the assembly, and it was a gut and amend, for what you know is they fill in a bill and then at the last minute they gut that bill and put whole new language in, and you only get like 5 days to review it. That's how wonderful the legislature works. But this particular bill is put out by Westland's Water District. Everybody probably knows a little bit about them. They're the largest water district in the state of California and have been in existence for a long time, and essentially are the Tulare Basin. What they want to come back in this bill and ask for is an amendment to the law that allows irrigation districts, California water districts, to provide solar power. They already have the ability to provide hydroelectric power because most of their facilities obviously are related to water. And if they can generate some power along the way, that's great. South Feather is a good local example of an agency who's doing a great job of that. But Westlands wants to go beyond that. They want to now start putting in solar fields, and they want to put up transmission lines. I will tell you that my read between the lines is this is a business model changeover. This is a district that's seeing really clearly that their water supply is probably drying up. The state water board is putting the clamps on them through the GSAs and the GSPs. Sorry to use all these acronyms, but the reality is I think they're recognizing that their future may not all be in water delivery anymore. And they have all this land that's sitting there that's no longer going to be irrigated, and it's not good, valuable agricultural land without water. It's basically, desert. So why not put solar panels on it? So the part that is good is that's great. More power to the districts if they can find other business models to keep them good. That doesn't mean it has to be just Westlands. It could be anywhere. But what we want to make sure in this is that when you expand a power, when a special district comes in and asks to do something they didn't previously do, the principal act for that district says, here's for example, 10 things that you are empowered to do. We, LAFCo, over the course of time doing MSRs and evaluating, we know what those particular things are. So maybe the district is doing 4 out of the 10 things off the menu. Well, we bless that in their sphere plan and their MSR, and then anything beyond that is a latent power, something they can do, but only with your permission to do it. So what we want to make sure is when Westlands comes back and asks for this change to add solar power component, they go to their local county LAFCo and go through the expansion of powers process. We have done it here on occasion. It's not a complicated process necessarily, but we want to make sure they do not bypass LAFCo in the process of writing this bill. And that was what the importance yesterday on that phone call was they want to make that case to the Assembly Committee that we have to stay, and LAFCo has to stay as the authority over those powers for a whole variety of good reasons I know all of you probably already recognize. But without it, you could end up with districts just saying, we're going to go out and pull powers out of the Principal Act. We're not going to coordinate with LAFCO or the county or any other district for that matter, and start that process. That's just fundamentally, inherently illogical for one, and it will be greatly inefficient as to looking at. So we want to make sure that happens. So I just want to bring that bill to your attention. It doesn't affect us directly, but it does affect LAFCO. As Mr. Connolly has said this about 1,000 times over the last 5 years, is there's more and more of this going around LAFCO thing because people don't want to go through the transparent public process that the 7 of you provide once a month. It's as simple as that. So we're going to stay on that end, and we are going to object to this bill unless they make some fundamental adjustments to it, including language that specifically says that any expansion of powers continues to go through the LAFCO process. The bill number is
21.
2661.
16.
It's Assembly Member Soria, Soria. 2661.
Just mention that this kind of legislation all they're trying to do is bypass local LAFCO. They've done a water district did it in Ventura County this last session, and it was a fight, and I think they came to some decent agreement, but still all these anytime they can't do something to a local LAFCO, they go to their legislator and say, can you write me a bill to so we don't have to go through local LAFCO? And so I would just encourage Cal LAFCO to continue to fight this in every way you possibly can. because after a while, it'll just make us, neutered, basically. So. Thank
I
you.
may not use that word, but
Okay, I'm sorry, that wasn't a good word. Well, it sort of was, but what was it? What was the bill again?
2661.
Thank you.
AB,
AB,
AB 2661.
thank you.
I can, and if anybody, if you're interested, I can forward you all a copy of the bill when I get back. Okay.
I guess the main point, though, tagging on to Supervisor Kimmelshoe is that it's like keeping the public in the dark. That's the main thing. We're the light. We're the ones that are neutral, say this is the impacts of what you're doing. And the public has actual input and we keep them on course. So whenever they do one of these bills, it's like they're trying to bypass the public. I mean, like when you send a water line out to a new casino in the middle of nowhere with a bill, which happened, remember?
That's right.
And that's why I'm a little bit frustrated is there's actually just some language change that needs to be fixed. And I can't, San Diego's on it, but, and which I think we'll fully support but the rest of LAFCo doesn't want to take it up because they see it as too big a lift. And that language allows special districts to circumvent the process if it's interpreted by a lawyer, which we've already had in our county once. I took him to lunch and it didn't matter. Anyway.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to if Western Water District wants to generate power through solar. That's their business, but it's got to go through the local LAFCO and get their blessing.
And I hope, I know you're kind of kidding about the neutering of LAFCO, but I hope that's what LAFCO is for, is to bring light to these situations and things that are happening, not allow things to be done in the shadows.
That's what we are about.
And that's what
really.
LAFCO is about. And it's not about us getting our pride hurt or, that's
Yeah.
not it. It's the fact that we're the opportunity for it to be brought to the public and be shown as to what it really is. And I hope that's their focus. So.
I
Excellent.
think
Well
Mr.
said.
Connolly would agree that the disappointing part from a staff perspective is we've been blessed here that we have a leadership, a LAFCO that shows leadership and tells its staff to go get involved and do the things like Ms. Costa talked about earlier, participating with these groups and such. But Bill knows this. A lot of LAFCOs just simply their commission doesn't care, or they don't direct their staff to do it, or they don't put funds towards funding it enough revenue for staffing to do it. So I'm grateful that you all have taken this position, because even though it adds maybe some more things on my plate, it's exactly what we should be doing and exactly what you guys are telling me to do. So that's all I have on the EO report. If you have any questions for me, I'm happy to try to answer them.
I have a question about the application activity chart. Gridley's MSR update. The application was filed January of 2023, and the only comment we have here, it's in progress, but here we are a year and a half later. Where are we with this?
We were advised maybe 2 months ago that this summer we would receive a draft document from the consultant that they hired. I have not seen any, I have not participated in any of that process. And so I'll be interested to see what that draft document looks like. And of course, we'll thoroughly read through it. And so receiving the draft document is sort of the opportunity for us to pinpoint where we need to focus more attention. And so, but as far as we know, it's actively being worked on by the consultant that was agreed upon.
Is this the same consultant that was originally hired to do this process?
Yes,
Gridley?
she has staff, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah, she has a team who she's assigned to work on the project for her.
So just a little background, maybe just to illustrate the process. So when it comes to MSR updates, there's occasionally something we will initiate. And we usually do that for the districts that are non-development, non-growth agencies. And we have policies to that effect. So we don't try to get involved. But when the cities come to us and say, we want to update an MSR, and they initiate that because it's something they want to do. And Gridley has a good reason to update theirs to reflect current infrastructure and so forth on the ground. We enter into a letter agreement, basically saying, here's how we want it to look. we have to be able to approve the consultant you choose. And then we will ultimately take over the process once the administrative draft is produced. But as Shannon pointed out, there's this gap between when we give them the okay to move forward with the letter agreement and accept a deposit. But then it's really up to the agency to engage that consultant and begin the process. And we're not contracted with that consultant. They
I
are.
totally understand that.
Okay.
I just want to know what's taking so
Yeah.
long. I mean, quite frankly, I mean, you haven't shared with us when you authorized the city to engage the services of this consultant, but my guess is it's been more than a year ago.
I don't believe that they've been actively working on an MSR for the past year. I believe it's only been a couple month process where I believe that last year we agreed upon the consultant. They took a long time to actually contract with that consultant, and then to finally set up times and dates to provide information to the consultant also took some time. And so the consultant themselves, I believe, have only been working on the project for a reasonable amount of a couple months of time.
Thank you.
It's not as clean as we would hope. I apologize.
Any other questions or comments? All right. Adjourn. So August 1st.
Exactly 1 hour.